under the radar ads. And he identified 5 names that he thinks fit that criteria. The first being Flyers defenseman Nick Seeler. He's a little bit lower on your list with all the talk that the Flyers would like to extend this guy. Some of the other names include Arthur Kaliyev from the LA Kings. And actually, he's one that stands out, Frank, just because of his age. So can you maybe give some insight into why the Kings are looking to move this guy and maybe who could be in the mix for him? Or what kind of team could be in the mix for him, I guess?
He hasn't found a home with the Kings. He's been in and out of Jim Hiller's lineup. And I thought if you read the story, and we can have Stephen Ellis chime in when we have him on, but he said maybe there's an Owen Tippett-like rebound for this kid somewhere else. And when you think back to the Flyers getting Tippett from the Panthers a couple years back, you're like, no one in Philly was really excited. They're like, yes, he has first-round pick pedigree, but hadn't really shown it at an NHL level, certainly in a consistent way that he could be a top-level producer. And now 2 years later, Owen Tippett has already signed a $50 million deal. He flies, and he's been a huge part of why the Flyers are a playoff team this year. And now you look at Kaliyev, and it's just been square peg, round hole. We're now through 2 different coaches this season in LA, and he's someone that doesn't have waiver eligibility. The Kings know that he'd be claimed. So if he's not fitting in and if he's not playing, they're going to have to move him at some point, likely this summer. Probably not a deadline move, but maybe he's, for a non-playoff team, someone that you take a flyer on.
Brandon Newhame was another name, a nice kind of prototypical bottom 6 ad that I'm sure some playoff teams will be looking at. Nick Dowd, we spent a lot of time talking about the impact he could have, but Joel Edmondson was one of the 5 names that Steven wrote about. And he's really interesting because that original cap hit, as you can see here, is 3.5. But remember, he's been retained once by the Montreal Canadiens. So if the Washington Capitals were to keep a little bit more, all of a sudden he's a dirt cheap ad for a team looking to add some defensive depth. Frank, I know he's not the same player he was a couple of years ago, but I still think that some teams who are maybe just looking for a real reliable, even number 7, someone you can just throw into the lineup and count on to give you 12 to 14 minutes in a game, I think Edmonton can be that guy for a contender.
Yeah, I think teams could do a lot worse, especially given what should be a relatively inexpensive acquisition cost. I mean, he's at 175 right now on the cap. You could knock him down a bit. And as a pending UFA, no strings attached. His ice time is way down. This is basically the fewest minutes that he's played in almost a decade. He has Stanley Cup pedigree, was a big part of that run with the St. Louis Blues in 2019. He's played at a couple different stops since then, Carolina, Montreal, and Washington now. But, given what should probably be a 3rd, 4th round pick that you're looking at, seems to be like a pretty reasonable acquisition cost, especially with the Caps holding half, that almost any team in the league could afford him on their cap. And, for just insurance purposes only, you can never have too many defensemen. I'd add Edmonton to my team.
What's up, hockey fans? If you enjoyed that video, then you need to be hitting the subscribe button right here at Daily Faceoff. Exclusive interviews and analysis from our hockey insider Frank Seravalli, fantasy updates from Brock Sagan, and a daily live show at noon Eastern, Monday through Friday. You don't want to miss any of the fantastic content, so hit that subscribe button.